How to Heal Avoidant Attachment, 4 Important Steps. Now, if you want to feel like a warrior in love who knows all about complex relationships and experiences long-lasting emotional growth, this video is for you. Now, we often think that avoidant partners just need space. And if we give them enough space, they will feel safe enough to spend more time with us. But really, space is just a code word for there's a tornado going on inside of me, and the only thing I know to do is run away from it. But believe it or not, that is not the safest thing to do in a tornado. Instead, you're supposed to get out of your car, lay down close to the ground, and just let it pass over you. So here is the oversimplified situation. Think of it as feelings versus fears. It's kind of like a seesaw. When the fear rises, the emotional availability drops for the avoidant partner. And so why is that? Childhood emotional neglect plays a massive role here. Imagine growing up where your emotional needs are consistently overlooked or overridden. This can create a protective shell around one's heart and lead to pulling away just when things are supposed to be getting serious. Now picture this, a world where every emotional cue from a partner is met with openness and receptivity rather than rejection and withdrawal. Sounds ideal, doesn't it? But when we cling to this myth that avoidant partners just need space, we end up enabling patterns that sever the ties that could lead to deeper intimacy in the relationship. And then they usually wind up getting stuck cycling around and around again inside their own inner tornado. If you have an avoidant nature, your task is to learn how to break down those impenetrable walls by understanding the roots of your avoidant behaviors and learn how to create your own emotional safety by harnessing the power of true emotional freedom and discipline. And so healing from an avoidant attachment style is a journey of rediscovering the spontaneity, the curiosity, and the joy that comes with emotional openness. It involves stepping back into the vulnerable space of emotional engagement without a fear of losing oneself. Now, in today's segment, we are going to discuss this journey in terms of 4 important steps. But before I share those with you, I'd like you to know that genuine healing and connection is more than possible. It is even probable once you decide and commit to walking the path of self-reflection and personal growth. Now, to give you a little inspiration, here are some testimonials from Irina, Mikhail, and Jordan, all of whom identified with having an avoidant attachment style and experienced real results after participating in my online courses for avoidant attachment.
I would, in a classically avoidant fashion, jump in and jump out, and I just realized that I was repeating the same patterns. And I was actually watching your videos for like a year and a half before enrolling. They were really helping a lot, but I realized like maybe I needed like more of a push.
It was at a point where something has to move, something has to shift, something has to change. That point in time, the one thing that we kind of knew was that there was this unhealthy push and pull. I really wanted to understand like what exactly is this push-pull thing that's going on.
I found out that I have these attachment issues. I want to find out what I could do about it.
It's been very helpful to be part of the Facebook group and seeing people sort of having very similar issues. I felt like I was some sort of freak with my intimacy issues.
And so it was really interesting going through the course and actually seeing at the kind of the neuro and the chemical level that there's something peaceful about knowing that there's actual science behind this as well, and things along those lines are happening.
Even seeing that the same questions keep coming up over and over again for not just me, but other people, that was really helpful.
But the best part was I'm being a creative person, and in these exercises I get a presence for my inner child, I think.
For myself, it's actually been the guided meditation. In doing so, essentially creating space for new and better thoughts and thoughts that are more in line with who I actually want to become.
If you really want to do something about it, you have to join the courses. Not all advices are so good as the courses, I think.
Ultimately, like the feeling that I have now is that of hope and hopeful that I can ultimately become the partner that I've aspired to become.
I would say definitely take it. It's changed my life, and I've been dealing with these issues for, like I said, over a decade, and within half a year it's helped tremendously.
If you'd like to learn more about my proven methods for healing avoidant attachment style, After working with thousands of students and clients over the course of 15 plus years, stick with me until the end of this segment, because these 4 steps are just a taste of the compassionate way that I approach this healing process through my online courses and curriculums. And don't forget to share this video with a friend if you feel like you had a few light bulb moments. And remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications for more inspirational and life-changing content like this. So without further ado, let's dive into our 4 steps to heal avoidant attachment. Step 1 is to heal avoidant attachment with playfulness and creativity. Now, why is there a need to recover playfulness and creativity for the avoidant partner? How was that lost in the first place? So avoidant partners often develop their attachment style through a pattern of emotional neglect, dismissal, punishment, or manipulation. These external restrictions lead to internal emotional, energetic constrictions in the body. And so as a result, the capacity to freely play, move around, explore, or find enjoyment in discovery and fun interactions becomes stunted. This is a crucial developmental task during our youth, and if it is not properly fostered, it can lead to disruptions in our adult relationships. Well, and so what does that look like? Well, avoidant individuals may have trouble adapting to changes or be emotionally inflexible. They may have an intense desire to control situations or other people as a way to manage their own emotional discomfort. There can be an excessive need to meet impossibly high standards, often to avoid criticism or perceived failure. They might keep an emotional distance in relationships to avoid vulnerability or exposure. They have a lack of awareness of their own body or an avoidance of their own emotional or physical sensations in the body. They can be lacking in clear boundaries or overly rigid to protect themselves. They also often have a harsh internal critic that prevents emotional exploration or risk-taking. Now, what does it look like once we have healed avoidant attachment? Well, you are better able to laugh together, and this connection helps to relieve stress. They are able to be spontaneous and enjoy unexpected moments and surprises together. They're able to try new things, and that enhances a sense of excitement and depth in the relationship. They can be more vulnerable. Playfulness breaks down barriers, and it allows for that openness. Also, they have a greater capacity to uplift their partner. Playfulness brightens the other person's day and also strengthens the emotional bond between themselves and a partner. And you just have a greater capacity for joy, celebrating small moments together and the strengths of the relationship. And so this reconnection with our creative self helps to soften the defensive barriers that we have built around our hearts. Now, in my work as a creative arts therapist, we use things like scribble drawings, metaphors, storytelling, and imaginal dialogues to rediscover our playful selves and the inner child. If you want to learn more about that, I invite you to check out my playlist, Healing the Inner Child with Parts Work. Now, step 2, developing self-trust to heal avoidant attachment style. Now, why do avoidant partners need to develop self-trust? Isn't it that they just don't trust others? So avoidant partners don't trust other people because they don't trust themselves to remain resilient or emotionally strong and boundaried when they are around others. So what are avoidant partners avoiding? They are avoiding the internal experience of anxiety and discomfort that arises when someone makes an emotional request or demand of them. And that creates a powerful compulsion to oblige. And this impulse is so strong that they begin to feel like their true self is just slipping away or suffocating, and they lose all sense of free will. This is why avoidant attachment is characterized by a feeling of being smothered with personal freedom, being valued above all else. Before earning this deeply felt self-trust, avoidant partners typically display rigid but fragile boundaries. So their hypersensitivity, black and white thinking, and passive-aggressive approaches to conflict are really evidence of this. The resulting behaviors are called avoidant deactivating strategies, and these are strategies that shut down connection in order to keep them safe, right? A few avoidant deactivation strategies. We have stonewalling. They might withdraw from conversations or situations that feel threatening and leave issues unresolved. Black and white thinking. They see things as all or nothing, usually leading to extreme reactions and difficulty compromising, repairing, or meeting in the middle. Then we have dismissiveness. They might downplay or ignore the feelings or needs of their partners, creating emotional distance. And then we have passive-aggressive comments. They might express their dissatisfaction or resentment indirectly through things like sarcasm or the silent treatment. And then we have hypersensitivity to criticism. They might be critical themselves, but then react strongly to some criticism directed at them because it threatens their sense of self. And so as avoidant partners begin to embrace their playful and their creative sides, they now naturally start to develop a stronger sense of self-trust. And they are better able to what we call co-regulate. And it means no longer living in fear of being overwhelmed, manipulated, or subsumed by somebody else's needs and desires. And so when we have this solid foundation of self-trust, which maybe we'll call auto-regulation, individuals feel more resilient and confident in their ability to manage a dynamic flow without losing their sense of self, right? So some signs of more secure attachment and co-regulation. They can express their needs and concerns directly, and that fosters transparency in the relationship. They are more flexible. They can adapt to changing circumstances or compromises, showing a more balanced approach to their problem solving. They're more empathetic. They can listen and validate their partner's needs, enhancing emotional intimacy. They are more constructive in their conflict resolution. They address disagreements calmly and collaboratively and seek mutually beneficial solutions. And they also have healthier, firm but flexible boundaries. They set clear limits while remaining open to emotional connection. And finally, self-soothing. They can manage their own emotional responses, reducing their reliance on the external environment, meaning they don't have to take so much space in order to feel emotionally free or in command of themselves in someone else's presence. Now, if you're interested in learning more about developing self-trust and co-regulation versus auto-regulation, make sure you check out my last video, Why Avoidant Partners Won't Fight for Love and When to Let It Go. Now, let's look at step 3. Cultivating flexible and healthy boundaries in relationships. So why do avoidant partners need better boundaries? I thought avoidant partners had too many strong boundaries. This step is about knowing where one's emotional landscape begins and where it ends, facilitating really healthier interactions with others. So boundaries are, in essence, a set of unspoken rules, spoken and unspoken rules, that define the edges of our comfort zones. They help us understand what we like and what we dislike, what we value and what we prioritize, what we really need and what we really want. And so this makes them important informants of our sense of self and identity, and they also determine what allows us to feel safe or unsafe, particularly in relationships. When you don't trust yourself, you tend to implement boundaries in extreme ways. They are either too loose or they are too rigid. They are either a diffuse cloud or a solid brick wall. And so you might express them based on what other people think they should be. And this is problematic because if your boundaries are serving other people's notions instead of your own intrinsic needs and values, then you're cut off from what I'm going to call your core spiritual self. And so this lack of connection can lead to things like insecurity and a lack of self-trust. So what do boundary struggles look like for avoidant partners? Well, avoiding intimacy for one, keeping emotional distance to prevent vulnerability, avoiding situations where their boundaries might be tested, overcommitting. Sometimes they can take on too many responsibilities or obligations to avoid addressing more personal needs and desires. You might see this in the avoidant who's more of a workaholic, for example. And you might be surprised to know that people-pleasing is also something that avoidant partners are quite guilty of. So they can prioritize other people's needs at the expense of their own, sometimes to avoid conflict or rejection. But sometimes they do this so much that they burn themselves out, and that's when they seem to inexplicably withdraw, because that is going to require boundary negotiations. How do your needs and my needs match up, and where do they meet in the middle? That's very confusing for avoidant partners. The healthiest boundaries are flexible and semi-permeable, and they stem directly from our core self. And that informs what we really need, want, and value and prioritize in relationships. And so when you deeply know these things, you can be creative and you can have self-trust. You can also extend an invitation to other people to share in your emotional experiences without dominating them or feeling as if you're relinquishing control of yourself. And so healthy boundaries in relationships looks like being able to engage in honest conversations about your needs and wants and expectations, allowing both partners to understand each other's boundaries. There is mutual respect, where you value each other's perspectives and preferences, even if they differ, fostering a sense of equality in the relationship. And of course, there's clear communication, expressing personal limits and desires openly, creating a transparent environment where both parties feel heard and understood. And then there's not as much a fear of compromise. Finding solutions that respect both partners' needs and boundaries promotes a sense of cooperation, collaboration, and shared decision-making. For example, secure partners are not so afraid of compromise because they know just because they compromise once doesn't mean they'll compromise every time. And when they compromise, they know that doesn't mean that they have to give up all of themselves. Right. And when we have healthy boundaries, we're also better able to offer things like emotional support. We can offer comfort and understanding without losing ourselves in that process and maintaining a balanced emotional connection, separate but together. And so this really allows both parties in a relationship to coexist with mutual respect, reciprocation, and understanding. Now, this leads us to our last step, step 4. And that is learning healthy communication skills. Why do avoidant partners need to learn new communication skills? Can't they just choose to be honest about how they feel? So healthy communication requires that we actively listen to what someone says, rephrase it in our own way, and then express empathy and validation for their experience while also providing our own feedback and contributions to the conversation. And so there has to be a degree of comfort with differing feelings, differing viewpoints, and also constructive feedback in order to have healthy communication. And this is, of course, required for things like conflict repair and deepening the intimacy in reciprocal relationships. So avoidant partners practice being detached from their feelings, which means a few things. They often do not recognize their deeper feelings for what they are, even when they're having them. Therefore, they haven't really cultivated an internal method for organizing their feelings efficiently. Therefore, expressing their feelings outwardly is also usually not very well refined or organized. It also means that their capacity for picking up on the subtle cues of other people's emotions, which they are already suspicious of and defended against, is usually skewed negatively. Add to that, the words that we are taught to use to describe our feelings and the way that we express them, at least in modern Western societies, is generally dismissive, blaming, and defensive in nature anyway. So while we think we are being honest, we are actually being tactless and expressing our ego defenses and not real feeling states. Now, luckily, there are strategies in communication that improve the outcome for communicating your needs based on attachment styles. So for example, soft strategies, which focus on expressing appreciation and respect for one's personal autonomy and contributions, work best with avoidant partners. Whereas safe strategies, which express reassurance, connection, and validation, tend to work better with anxious partners. But it's not just about learning to say the right things at the right time, because even then, we can learn to do that, and maybe we even get the response that we wanted. But there will still be a resentful part of us that is mad that we had to do it. That's why communication is really not just about strategizing words. It's also about allowing your words to connect to your deeper, more vulnerable feelings that are locked in our subconscious mind, body, and nervous system, so you can relax and finally experience emotional healing. This is why I believe that learning to communicate more effectively is a part of the process of healing the wounded inner child. It's a huge organizing part of the process. And so that is the heart of what I have taught more than 6,000 students at this point how to do over the past 15 plus years, particularly with my course, The Courageous Communicator. So using what I call my HIP communication formula, and that stands for Heal, Inspire, and Practice, avoidant partners can learn this delicate art of being separate yet together and appreciating the beauty of interdependency, where both parties support and enrich each other while maintaining their distinctive individualities. And so if you're interested in learning more about this proven roadmap, I do have one more quick clip to share with you, and this includes testimonials from folks that have taken my courses and seen results.
I had this ugly kind of communication with my daughter of 15.
I still find that somehow or other I seem to be sabotaging relationships.
Because I have experienced the anxious avoidant dynamic in my relationships.
My favorite lesson of activity, I think, was actually understanding about safe strategies and soft strategies.
We start with evaluation, and then you transform it to feelings, and then she makes us aware through the bodily experience, and then we express it in art. So that kind of is magic.
I find it very clear and helpful in understanding how the way I want others to communicate with me in order to feel safe and secure is not necessarily what others need.
And she alleviated my perfectionism a little bit by letting us know, look, this is a process and that's okay, and that it can actually be fun. And she helped us kind of reframe the whole, terrifying journey into yourself of why you do what you do and how to change it and all the vulnerability that comes with that.
I was actually able to get more in tune with myself when it comes to relating to people's emotions and feelings,
which allowed me to really practically apply what Brianna was teaching us. Super useful, especially in moments of higher conflict or higher communication problems.
This goes way far beyond.
And you just get this light bulb moment after light bulb moment that sets you free. You're like, wow, I'm not a horrible person after all. There's so much hope. I'm normal. I can let the love in.
So it's nice that somebody like Brianna is there to help us heal that. Her work really transforms lives. I feel like she's the real deal.
Now, wouldn't you like to see results like these? Just imagine, what if rather than your partner shutting down and running for the hills, they pull you close and they whisper, "Thank you for telling me. Let's work this out." Or what if you were able to recognize and communicate your needs fearlessly, and your partner responds by respecting you and loving you all the more for it? I had no idea that you needed that, but I'm happy to know how I can support you now. Or what if you knew just the right words to put them at ease and get them to listen to you? Maybe they say something like, "That's not easy for me to hear, but I feel closer to you now that you told me." It is all possible. And it is all worth it. This course is for anyone that is interested in learning effective communication skills based on all 4 attachment styles, whether you are partnered or single. And we do this in just 90 days. Now, to learn more, be sure to click the link attached to this video and take the first step to cultivating a soul-shaking, passionate partnership in your life today. Now, let's review what we have learned, and I want to leave you with some final thoughts. Healing from avoidant attachment style can be challenging, but it is also deeply rewarding. Throughout this segment, we have addressed common myths and misconceptions surrounding avoidant partners and offered some practical solutions for personal growth and healthier relationships. Now, if you or your partner struggles with avoidant attachment, there is hope for healing and transformation. My course, The Courageous Communicator, offers a proven roadmap for developing secure, loving relationships. And through my HIP communication formula, you will learn how to balance independence with intimacy and communicate more effectively. So I invite you to join more than 6,000 students who have benefited from my courses and start building those healthier and happier relationships today. So if you'd like to check it out, be sure to click the link attached to this video and watch the free introductory training. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video segment. Before you go, please leave your questions and feedback in the comments. I would love to hear how this material is landing with you, and I take all comments into consideration when creating new content like this. Thank you and have a great week. Also, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week and I wouldn't want you to miss out.